Day 5 of the federal trial crackled with tension. The courtroom was packed to capacity before 8 a.m., journalists with pens hovering over blank pages, spectators leaning forward in anticipation. Even seasoned court officers exchanged meaningful glances. Everyone sensed it. Today would change everything. When Cassie Ventura entered, her composed demeanor contrasted sharply with the weight of what she was about to reveal. Gone was the glamorous artist, once inseparable from music's most powerful mogul. Today, she was simply a witness carrying an impossible truth. Then came the question that silenced the room. "Miss Ventura," the defense attorney asked with calculated casualness, "have you ever been beneath the property? Inside the tunnel system?" For months, rumors of underground spaces had circulated online, dismissed as conspiracy theories and urban legends. Until now. Yes. That single word, spoken quietly but with absolute clarity, transformed speculation into sworn testimony. "I didn't want to go down there," Cassie began, her voice steady but distant. "He was in an altered state that night, pupils dilated, movements erratic. I was confused, but I followed." The entrance wasn't within the mansion itself, but concealed in the landscaping near the pool, a sloped section that appeared merely decorative unless you knew what to search for. A hidden hatch beneath carefully arranged foliage. It looked like nothing, just a part of the garden design unless you knew it was there. What followed was testimony so methodically delivered that its clinical precision only amplified its disturbing nature. Concrete stairs descending at a sharp angle. Temperature dropping with each step. Steel doors with electronic locks. The smell changing from garden flowers to something chemical and antiseptic. "It got colder the deeper we went," she testified. "This wasn't some celebrity panic room or wine cellar. This was something else entirely." The corridor stretched longer than seemed possible. Bare walls, fluorescent lighting, deliberately disorienting turns, doors requiring different access codes. He walked ahead of me, mumbling about showing me the truth and what happens to people who aren't loyal. There was something in his expression that told me not to argue. Not that night. They entered what she described as a chamber-like room with dim red lighting and surveillance cameras in each corner. The furniture was primarily leather, clean, expensive, but arranged for function rather than comfort. "There was this smell," she said. Cleaning products layered over something human. The room wasn't designed for relaxation. It felt clinical, yet somehow inappropriate. You sensed immediately this space existed for a specific purpose. She detailed shelving units holding masks, restraints, recording equipment, mirrors strategically positioned on ceiling and walls, professional soundproofing throughout. None of it felt like fantasy or entertainment, she testified. It felt like control, like it was constructed specifically to exercise power over whoever entered. When asked if she had seen anyone else underground, Cassie hesitated. "Yes, 2 women were there when we arrived. They wore styled wigs and partial face coverings. One was motionless on a sectional couch. The other sat near camera equipment. Neither spoke. Neither made eye contact." "Did he introduce you?" the attorney asked. Number he referred to them only as performers. No names, no backgrounds. They might as well have been props. Her testimony grew more unsettling as she described additional rooms. One dark, except for a single light illuminating a bench with metal fixtures, another containing only a viewing screen and control panel, a third empty save for a chair and electrical equipment. That's when I asked to leave. He just laughed and said I wasn't ready and that this was too real for me. But it was what he allegedly whispered before they exited that caused jurors to visibly recoil. "This is where I bring the ones I own." She described hearing muffled sounds behind one door. What initially seemed like music, but which she realized were human voices, distorted and unclear. I left those tunnels shaking, she testified. The smell clung to my clothes for hours. I showered 3 times but still felt contaminated. She never told anyone, not friends, family, not even her therapist initially. I was afraid, she said simply, not just of him, but of disappearing. Like if I spoke about what I'd seen, I might vanish just like those women in the rooms. When asked why she chose to speak now, her answer silenced the courtroom. Because it's not just about me anymore. Because this is still happening. Because if someone else ends up down there and never returns to tell their story, their silence would be partly my responsibility. The judge called for recess, but remarkably, not a single person moved. The testimony had created a moment of collective paralysis. When proceedings resumed, questioning shifted to activities both below and above ground. The defense introduced the term freak-offs, a phrase from text exchanges often in seemingly playful contexts. The reality, Cassie explained, was anything but playful. They were staged events, meticulously planned nights involving sexual acts, multiple participants, often filmed. Everyone had assigned roles, instructions were explicit, substances were frequently mandatory. Text messages spanning years were reviewed. In one, he wrote, "Game starts at 10 p.m., no breaking character until morning." In another, "Wear the wig I picked. No speaking unless spoken to." While she sometimes agreed to participate, she emphasized a critical distinction. Agreeing while under the influence is not consent, she stated firmly. I was frequently intoxicated. There are entire nights I have no memory of. Actions I performed that I only learned about afterward through recordings I never consented to. Asked if these events occurred in the underground space. Yes, I was instructed to wear a specific outfit and remain completely silent. I was told there would be consequences if I broke character. The guests included people I'd never seen before. No introductions. I was simply told to trust the situation. One message entered into evidence contained the disturbing instruction. This time, I want complete control. No safe word. Afterward, I felt hollow, Cassie testified, like I wasn't sure whose body I was in anymore. She described being given various substances, often without knowing what she was taking. Opiates, MDMA, benzodiazepines, but most concerning were pills I couldn't identify, she said. They often left me disoriented, compliant, with significant memory gaps. She recounted regaining consciousness on the floor of his Miami residence with recording equipment still active. I had no recollection of how I got there or who else had been present. This happened more than once. Cassie testified she eventually suspected recordings were being preserved deliberately. He would say, "You're mine forever now," she recalled. Eventually, I understood he was referring to documentation kept for leverage. When challenged to provide evidence, she described seeing a clip on his computer, footage of herself with 2 unidentified men in a situation she couldn't remember. I begged him to delete it. His response was, "I keep everything for leverage." This control extended beyond intimate settings. Relentless monitoring of her movements, incessant calls if she left without notification, threats to destroy everything if she failed to respond promptly. It created complete dependency, she explained. I had no resources that weren't connected to him. When asked if she was the only woman subjected to these circumstances, no. I wasn't the only one. Not by a significant margin. She testified multiple women were present at various events. Some appeared to be hired companions, others individuals she didn't recognize. Occasionally public figures. I didn't ask questions, she admitted. I was too frightened of the answers. As testimony continued, the prosecution addressed physical abuse allegations. Evidence included photographs of a laceration above her eyebrow from a confrontation after she dined alone. He accused me of infidelity. I wasn't being unfaithful. I had simply had dinner by myself because I needed space. She recalled being kicked after he discovered text messages from another artist, later identified as Kid Cudi. Most shocking was an incident during a Caribbean vacation. He physically threw me from a yacht into open water, she testified. He said I was dead weight. He needed to cut loose. I swam to shore alone, and still I returned to the relationship. This testimony visibly affected several jurors, prompting a brief recess. The prosecution then addressed the Intercontinental Hotel incident, the night before her film premiere. I wanted to celebrate this accomplishment, she explained, but he insisted on arranging one more session, framing it as a tradition. I never responded, she said. Something inside me had finally broken. For the first time, I began to envision life without him. When asked what she hoped would result from these proceedings, her answer was direct: accountability. Not just for what happened to me, but for everyone who passed through those properties, for every person who disappeared into those underground spaces and never spoke of it again. With that, her testimony concluded. Although cameras weren't permitted inside, the world outside already sensed the magnitude of what had transpired. Cassie Ventura hadn't merely testified, she had illuminated corners of an industry long shrouded in secrecy. Some truths, once spoken aloud, can never be buried again. The walls and the tunnels beneath them had finally begun to speak,